Hi, I'm Rigger. This is You Alright, and today I want to make a video about something that's been on my mind from this week's, episode. Meaning spoilers for Volume 8, Chapter 3. There's your warning. But first, if you like this video, there's a button for that. Share it around if you think someone else would like it too. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and subscribe if you want to see more. But yes, today, as you've probably guessed, I wanted to talk about semblance evolution. Not a giant essay on it about how it applies to everyone, but simply a thought brought on by recent events. So, see, the whole thing with semblances is that the meta application to characters varies. By which I mean that in-universe they've put out the idea that some people think semblances reflect who you are, some say that semblances actually inform who you are, and some see no connection at all between the person and the semblance. This is a writing get-out-of-jail-free card that some of our main characters will have more thought-out semblances that draw from inspirations in their personalities and their character arcs and their ties to fairy tales, etc. And for us, the audience, that's fine. But it also lets them have fun in the world by just coming up with semblances they like. They don't always have to reflect on the character and all that kind of stuff. And that's perfectly fine. You know, if you want some side characters that don't have to be super deep, that's perfectly fine. But yeah, the metaphors and influences on some of those main characters are pretty easy to pass a lot of the time. Like Ren can literally hide his emotions. He does that a lot even without his semblance. It's a literal manifestation of their personality trait. Nora is based on Thor, and lightning makes her stronger, or electricity in general. Who'd have thunk it? Hazel is a really good metaphorical one, actually. He's haunted by loss and he's trying to bury it, so he has a way to literally block out the feeling of pain. That's actually a pretty good one. Yang is also pretty good. She represents strength and therefore she can take hits over and over and throw them back harder. A character that can bounce back from anything, but has to learn that the strongest still have a breaking point, and like a semblance, she isn't invincible. It doesn't make her completely unstoppable. Blake, of course, talked about hers, letting her run away from her problems. Jean may not be the most effective on his own, but he literally boosts those around him, as any good leader should. Now, Raven is the really bad one. Well, really good one, I guess. Someone who abandoned everyone she formed a bond with to return to her old ways out of fear. She literally has a way to return and see them at any time, but chooses not to and makes excuses as to why. It informs her character very well, along with her name and its literal allusion to the term Raven Mother. Even someone like Emerald, you can infer she grew up on the streets, poor and hungry. She probably was looked down on and hated it, so she literally has an ability to make others see what she wants them to see, a way to change their perception. The metaphors and influences can be strong in the show, not always, but there is something really there for some of those characters. The approach they've taken, where some of them are super deep, some of them aren't so much, some of them are just for fun, and that a lot of them seem to reflect their personality traits and character arcs, is a good approach, particularly from a meta perspective that we can from the outside as the audience study them. But in the universe there's something else that's always stuck with me, is that semblances also seem to appear and reflect what you need at the time they're unlocked. I might make a video on the whole subject another time, but just to illustrate quickly what I mean, Ren needed to hide or he'd die, so he manifested a semblance to do it. Nora got struck by lightning, meaning she needed a way to survive it in that moment or she'd die, and she manifested an ability to do it. Ruby says hers kicked in during training one day. I don't think it is this exact moment from her short, but just like that moment you can infer she probably really needed to dodge something, some attack coming in that she really thought would hurt, and therefore she manifested an ability to do it. Jean especially, there was no other option. He needed a way to heal Weiss, and while it may have other effects as well, he did summon the ability to make that happen. Yes, many of the semblances do reflect people using them in their personality and character. A lot of those things are references to their influences, like Nora and Thor. You can't deny there's also the element of summoning what you need at those specific times they're unlocked. You know, it's convenient that it matches their outside influences because that's how you just write the story so all those things line up. But in universe, that is a thing, or it really seems to be. I always interpreted that as it's a minor inert bit of magic left over from when humanity had magic. And as others long before myself have pointed out, you know, the word semblance, it's like something, it's like magic, you know, that's what the word semblance is, it appears like something else. It has a resemblance to it, and semblances are that. They have a resemblance to magic, but they're much more focused. They serve much more of a specific purpose for each person. But it actually made me think that, in a way, I don't think you really have a defined semblance from birth. Like, maybe some people like Weiss do, who have it passed down as a family trait. You know, it's one of those things that counts against the theory, but for a lot of people it seems like, imagine you have a small amount of magic that lies dormant in your person. It's just always there from birth, and if you've trained enough, or the situation is desperate enough, you can summon it into an ability, at which point it defines what it is, and sort of is locked off there. Not that you had the power all along, but that you had the general potential dormant, and the situation defined how it would manifest itself. Then it defines what your semblance is, and from then on you have that ability. ability. Almost like your circumstances dictate what ability you get, and then you're from there left to figure out the positives and negatives of that power from then on. And I know there are other cases that would dispute that point. It's not like a 100% idea, but you can see where it comes from. You can see the idea I'm playing with here. But anyway, moving on past that, you then also have to live with that ability you have, whether it was from birth or whatever, and you can make it stronger, you can work on it, and that brings us to the idea of semblance evolution. We've heard from Oz that semblances grow and evolve, and again from Winter that it's like a muscle. You need to both practice with it and push your limits to discover what's really possible for you to achieve. So there are things we sort of already know, but from those explanations we can infer two things: that you get better with them the more you use them. That's pretty obvious for anything in life and makes sense, and that a good way to do that is by pushing your limits, hopefully safely, but that's really not always possible. We see good reflection of this in the training of RWBY, especially through 7. We see her realize this splitting aspect of her ability, something she's done before, but she said her semblance usage was always more sort of instinctual and in the moment. She never really planned it out, so therefore hadn't really noticed this happening before now. But now she does see it, she's working on doing it intentionally and controlling that aspect. Then she does that through Volume 7. Similarly with her bringing other people with her. We've seen her do it before where she could only take one, and now she can take an entire group, take 3 people with her. It's a clear sign of progress, a serious improvement and growth of her semblance, mostly the result and payoff of the hard work and training we saw her do. And yes, she hadn't done this before in the moment, but the fact she can do it, whereas she probably really couldn't do it previously, is again more reflection that she has really improved. It proves the things that have been told to us before, that these evolutions are real and that the more you practice with the semblance, it will evolve and will gain more aspects to it and become stronger in what it can do. RWBY is the prime example here. So that's the training paying off, and that leaves the other option, pushing your limits. Yes, RWBY did that with that group, but again, she's been showing growth through practice. All of our team have been practicing, and there's an obvious question now. If semblances can evolve when you push your boundaries of what you think is possible, if you really push up against the edge of what you could do before, and as I've noted before, semblances seem to somewhat correspond to what you need at the time, and also react to times of desperation, then what could this all mean for Nora? Let's be real, she probably nearly killed herself here. Or at least that's what we get from what happens to her body and her reaction. Now, she unlocked her semblance absorbing a bolt of lightning, and has done that in the show. So that's a massive amount of energy. And she's shown to absorb that no problem, like it's every day. So I've seen some people criticize that this door definitely doesn't have more power than a bolt of lightning, or it shouldn't have. And rather than criticize that, let's look at it on the flip. Let's examine that from the way the show presents it. If it does, if it really contains so much energy that where a bolt of lightning is nothing to Nora, but this door and generator has this effect, then think of what that's done to Nora. Think of what that really means. So she has managed to tangle with that much power that apparently dwarfs bolts of lightning many, many times over, since those had no effect on her. For this security measure to push her well beyond what we've seen her able to take in means it must have a gargantuan amount of electricity here. Now, I won't get into the science of wattage and voltage and all of that. We'll just take it as generic electrical power for the sake of, this TV show. We won't go into amps and all of that stuff because I don't think it's going to apply here. So we can look at it a few ways. Probably not that it's all present at once, but it's coming from a huge, constantly running generator, whereas a bolt of lightning is very quick and very powerful. This is a extended, continuous pumping of a huge amount of electricity. It's coming from a constantly running generator, and it's not one big bolt or a smaller amount over time. It's a massive amount over an extended time, and this nearly fries her. It scars her all over. It puts her secondary effective strength through the roof, shattering a blast door like a bomb went off before she passes out. Now, Nora was training with the others, so no doubt her general aura reserve, semblance usage, etc. is stronger than it's ever been, just like all the others right now. She's stronger than she's ever been before, and this thing then pushed her well past her limits, blowing through them like never before, seemingly almost to the point of death. If everything so far holds consistently over the series, then I ask you, what can Nora do now? Nora needed to do this for everyone, replicating that moment I talked about that it seems to facilitate a lot of people unlocking their semblances to begin with. And she certainly pushed through perhaps what she thought was at all possible, and she was already significantly better with her abilities and skills than she's ever been previously, like everyone else after their time training. Nora's semblance, while useful, has always been pretty situational, and honestly underused. But if we're going to evolve it from where it is before, then what can we do? I don't have a huge answer for you, but just taking the evidence, you can't deny that this is the exact type of situation that really could facilitate a big evolution or big step in what her semblance could possibly do. A big evolution, a big change, perhaps new aspects, who knows? But she definitely qualifies all the things. She was in a moment of desperation, she pushed her existing semblance well past the limits, and she nearly killed herself to do it. So that qualifies for not just unlocking a semblance, but improving it. And she'd already been training a lot, so it was worked up to, you know, she had improved with her skills anyway before this huge incident. And then that raises the fun questions of, well, what can it change to? Like, let's just throw out ideas. I don't really know, you know, it's pretty up in the air. Ideas range from her massively increasing her ability to intake and hold electricity, so maybe stay powered up for a lot longer, like maybe entire combat sequences, not just expending them in like 1 or 2 big hits. Be more of a transistor and, you know, contain a lot more electricity like all the time. Another is becoming a bit like Hazel, maybe able to coat her body in electricity she's taken in to act as a barrier to strikes and as a weapon for her own strikes. Perhaps even throwing some lightning to be, again, it's something Hazel did, but to be a bit more like Thor. She can fire bolts from her palms or something, give some range to her semblance. Maybe she can control electrical flow now and interact with technology, like turning it on and off. I'm not sure. Maybe she can do something crazy like fly by using, you know, electrical magnetism to rise, or something like you see in The Boys, like Stormfront. You know, just, it doesn't really make sense, but, you know, in the world of powers, go through all the video game powers you'd like from people with electrical abilities, or all the people in comics and whatever else. There's a ton of possibilities. So please, leave your ideas below in the comments if you have any. Like, I'm very open to hear them. Let's talk about it. That's more the point of this video. It's a big sort of question than it is a big answer. Right now, everything we've been told before and everything we can infer from the show and watching them grow over time imply that Nora may have just gotten a huge upgrade. So, you know, we can just speculate on what it could be. Maybe she doesn't, but it feels like a way. She just went through all this. Let's grow with it. Could be something outside of the obvious electricity stuff somehow. Who knows? Maybe she gained something else, some other aspect. But before we know the real answer, I thought, let's talk about it now. Let's speculate, you know, and then we'll let the show tell us over the volume or over the next few seasons if we're right or wrong. Because just as far as I can tell, she ticks all the boxes that should qualify her to do that. So let's just talk about it and have some fun, in case this is what's happening. Or if not, we can all be disappointed later, I guess. But anyway, that's the video. No big conclusion, simply a big question. We'll have to see what's to come. But until then, if you liked the video, there's a button for that. Please share it around with those you think would like it too. Let me know your thoughts and all your ideas about this in the comments below, because I really want to see them, and subscribe if you want to see more. For now, my name is Rigger, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope I did alright.